everyone. Welcome back to Keto and Crime. Today I have got part two of You Are Not Enough. I don't even understand that title by Jodie Hildebrandt. I do understand what she was going for, but I think it just came off weird. And today I have a virtual background to remind myself that there are better books in existence. So, yeah. So today we're going to be doing part 2 and 3 and finishing out the book. As I said, it's only about 167 pages. And when I got to the end, I realized that only about 156 of those was actually more like 151 pages once you take out the end credits and the prologue and all of that. There's only about 151 pages of content. About 45% of that is lists. So it's not a very meaty book, thank goodness, because I don't know if I could have read a more substantive book from her. But I'm going to get you through part 2 and part 3 and the final chapters, and then we're going to wrap this up and move on to other subjects. And so with that being said, my name is Tracy. I do true crime, horror movie, and sci-fi movie reviews, dark history, and just history in general. And I do it on a very random schedule. I do upload about twice a week. So if you're new here and you like that sort of content, please subscribe. And if you are returning, thank you so much. You're the reason that I do this. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is just like, comment, share, and watch. If you would like to help me purchase the stuff that I do for this channel, then my Patreon, my channel memberships, all that's below. But the most important thing I want you to do is watch and enjoy and hopefully learn something. And so with that being said, let's dive into part 2 and 3 of You Are Not Enough. Okay. Part 2 is a whole part dedicated to experience. And she says that experience is a gift from our Creator. The only way for us to practice using our choice is to have something to project our choice into, and that is experience. Experience comes from 3 different sources. She says it's the outcomes of our choices, the outcomes of others' choices, and things that just happen. So that our experiences come from the stuff we do, the stuff others that we care about do, or that others in general, and things that just happen, just happenstance. And that's pretty much general knowledge.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
I mean, Jodie is not giving us, huge revelations there. That's pretty much common knowledge. It's either things that you do, that others do to you, or that affect you, and things that just happen, like you get hit by a car, but that would also fall into other people's choices. But you know what I'm saying. So from here, she took about 5 pages to say that, most of it lists. And then she moves on into chapter 6 when she was talking about vulnerability. And she starts this with a story of when she was 15, sitting in math class, and one of her friends was sitting next to her, a friend that she wanted to get to know more, that she was hoping to, because I guess this girl was the in crowd, and she needed help on a math test. So Jodie said that she allowed herself to be vulnerable enough that she allowed this girl to cheat off of her math test, and later on her teacher called her in and she was suspended because he accused her of cheating off the friend, and the friend had evidently lied on her.
Sure, Dan.
Now, I find this story a little unbelievable because I don't believe anybody would want to cheat off Jodie Hildebrandt's math test. I just, I think maybe she cheated and she got caught and she's twisting that into a story. Now, I do have experience. I have ghostwritten many, many books, many self-help books from gurus. And a lot of the stuff that's put in there is just absolute bullshit, stuff that I just pulled out of my ass and made it sound flowery. So if you've, read any of the self-help books I have ghostwritten, I am sorry. But these gurus like Jodie Hildebrandt, they just pull this stuff out of their ass. And I would be surprised if she even wrote this. I mean, she may have given people, because you can literally there are companies out there, the one that I work for, you could literally pay them between $1,500 and $2,500, and they would pay somebody 500 of that to ghostwrite it and send it back to you, and then you still have to pay for all the marketing and publishing and all of that. So don't even begin to think that any of the people that are writing these books are actually writing them. I think maybe 𝗙𝗵𝗃 did write his, but I don't believe for a second she wrote this entire book. I think it was ghostwritten with her, some input from her. Now, you know, I'm not worried about Jodie suing me. She's in jail. So anyway, so we talk about that, and then she talks about how vulnerability is inescapable. We're all vulnerable to the things of that affect us in this world, from aging to sickness to people's opinions of us. And she goes on to put more lists to differentiating between what we do, what others do, and what just happens. And so it was just lists. It's listicles. Then she moves on into chapter 7, motives. And she says, motives are why you do what you do. Thank you, Jodie. I would never have figured that out on my own. You are a wizard among women. But she says there are often emotional and spiritual belief system driving your thoughts, feelings, and actions, which impress your motives. Yes, Jodie. In all the world, I would never suspect that your religious beliefs mold your worldview, that your patriotic beliefs mold your worldview, that my belief in the genre of sci-fi might mold my beliefs. I would never ever suspect that. Again, just nuggets of everlasting wisdom from Jodie Hildebrandt here. And again, there's more lists. And then she talks about at the core of any belief system that is good is your willingness to be 100% responsible for yourself, or your unwillingness to be responsible for yourself. So you have to be responsible for your own motives and your own choices. Yes, this was definitely ghostwritten. You must be willing to explore your motives and understand which ones are good and which ones are distorted. And there's that distortion again. And then more lists. And then we get into chapter 8. And then she says that she has already established for us the definition of choice and motive. And now we're going to talk about perception, which is your view of the world, your view of what is true versus what's not as true. And she kind of breaks it down here, saying that perception is either truth or distortion. And truth just means you're open to connection and you're closed to fear. And distortion means you're open to fear and pain and closed to connection. And took way too many pages. This is one of the longest chapters. It's about 21 pages. And she took way too many pages and lists to explain this. So basically what she's saying here, that your perceptions are truth as long as you are open to connection with others and you are closed to fear. So basically, let's think about that definition. That's a very easy definition to meet. Well, if that's your only definition of truth, that what comes in, you're either open to connection with it, or you're closed to fear. Now, fear of what? This could literally make anything truth in her worldview. Anything, I'm sure, that meets the parameters of what the LDS Church and her own brand of LDS is truth. So this is why she's so easily able to heap destruction and craziness on her clients and her children and the YouTubes, is because she has closed herself off from any other possibility except what her worldview, her perception teaches her as truth. It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. I think she did write this chapter. I think the longer chapters she wrote, the shorter ones were probably ghostwritten because they're very general. But I think she wrote this one, and I think this is truly how she ran her practice, that whatever she believed to be the truth was the truth that she heaped on, and everything else was distortion. So that kind of gives you a kind of an overview of where she's coming from. And then she moves on to chapter 9, talking about emotions, and says that your emotions give you information about yourself and your surroundings and enable you to connect with reality, and that your brain creates emotions And that's how you perceive your experience. Then she goes on to talk about why you feel a certain kind of way. Again, I think that's ghostwritten. I don't think for a minute Jodie Hildebrandt understands lingo like that. And then she says again, you can, going back to perception, you can choose the truth or you can choose distortion. And truth is what Jodie Hildebrandt tells you is the truth. And then she talks about how emotional her children was and or were, and probably why none of her children speak to her today. Then we move on to chapter 10, and she talks about choice and how it's free will or agency. It's the most impeccable and most valuable gift that God has given us, in addition to being the most destructive. Again, truth, her truth versus everyone else's truth. And then she says you have to stop thinking about how you conquer the illusion of someone, and you just have to have the power to ponder your own facts and experiences and disseminate your own truth. Now, I find this rich because, in the previous part, she was talking about there is the truth, observable fact, and there is your truth. And now she's all into this is my truth, and her truth is the truth. And so it's the truth, and nothing but the truth with Jodie Hildebrandt, as long as it's her truth. And so we've gotten away from there is the observable truth and there is your truth. Now it's all her truth. And we see how successful that has been for her and her clients. And then she talks about triggers, and that simply means that this is what causes you to feel an emotion, and that you have to recognize what your triggers are. And then she talks about lists of positive and negative triggers, such as joy, contentment, the thought of kissing your true love, first kisses, hearing a favorite song. How all those can be positive triggers to make you feel positive emotions. And then how things like things that make you lose control, such as addictions and fear, resentments and needs for revenge, all of that triggers negative emotions. And again, just deep insights here from Jodie Hildebrandt. And then you have to learn how to manage them and keep certain things away from you. Yes, pretty general thought. And then she goes on into pain. In chapter 12, pain is a beautiful gift, and it allows you to go through experiences and learn what's right and wrong through truth or distortion. I'm getting so sick of hearing the word truth or reading the word truth. And then she says that pain comes from three sources, going back to one of the earlier chapters. It's the same thing as choice. The outcomes of your choices, others' choices, and things that just happen are what cause you pain. And then the net of this whole 8-page chapter was pain is optional. You can learn to feel pain or not to feel pain, because pain from radiation treatment is optional. She didn't even differentiate between physical pain and emotional pain. I'm sure she's talking about emotional pain, but the fact that she didn't even differentiate between the two, but she's saying that all pain is optional and it's just how you process it. And I think we see that in her counseling style. Sure, Jan. And then we finally get into part 3, which was only 2 chapters, 13 and 14. I mean, this whole part of the book was only about 10 pages. It wasn't even worth a part to itself. It should have just been put in with one of the others. But she talks about self-care and how loving in chapter 13 is love, self-care, and how you're supposed to do it. And then it means that you alone are accountable for your own self-care and what you perceive and how you behave. Again, responsibility. And then chapter 14, just talking about how connection is love. And then there's lists, more lists to help us understand that better, better delineation. Again, nuggets of truth. Joe Biden gives more coherent speeches than she writes books. I'm just saying. Anyway, that is You Are Not Enough by Jodie Hildebrandt. And let me know down below if you want me to read another of her books. I'll be happy to if you'd like me to. But I will continue to follow the 8 passengers case. We do know that Jodie Hildebrandt has recently surrendered her counseling license back to Utah. We don't know if that'll be a permit. I'm sure it'll all based on the outcome of the criminal case that's inevitably coming. Both her and Ruby are still in medical hold for something. I guess their pain is an optional. And anyway, so I will keep you abreast of all that. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. And I'll be back soon with another video. And until then, keep on